Hello, writers. Today we're thinking about our endings when we write. A satisfying ending is an important part of a writing piece. Writers can create powerful endings that leave the reader with a strong feeling. Okay, so a teacher named Christine Nanini had created this list of examples of narrative endings, and I wanted to share it with you. A circular ending is when the story circles back to the beginning. Sometimes an author will end with the same idea or similar or exact words as the beginning of the story. This is an ending that I choose often, and I'm going to share with you a post I recently wrote that has a circular ending in just a few minutes. A lesson or moral ending is when the main character in the story grows, changes, or learns something by the end of the story. In our personal narratives, that would be us learning something, right? Did we learn something through our story? Was there a positive ending for us where we came away with a new understanding? Similarly, a reflection ending is the narrator of the story steps back and thinks about what just happened. He or she often looks back on an experience and determines the importance of that experience. So I think the lesson or the moral ending and the reflection ending are similar. A question ending is when the story ends with a question to keep the reader thinking. In blogging, this is definitely a great strategy because it invites comments on your blog. And I've seen some of the writers in my class do that. They end with a question. I also try to do that sometimes when I'm writing a blog post where I would like other people to share their ideas on what I was writing about. An image ending is when the story ends with an important scene that the writer shows the reader through vivid details. By showing and not telling, the writer touches the reader's emotions and conveys a mood. With the image ending, you wouldn't tell the reader how you feel, you would show it through your words. A surprise ending, the story takes you where you didn't expect it to go. Sometimes the ending is called a twist ending because the story takes on an exciting turn. A warm, fuzzy, capturing emotion ending is when the story ends leaving you feeling emotional or good inside. A good writer tugs at the heart and strings to make the writer feel something. Cliffhanger ending is when you leave the reader wanting more. Writers use this strategy to tease readers or excite them into reading more. A funny thought or humor ending, the story ends with a funny thought or something that makes the reader laugh. This helps to make the ending more memorable to the reader. And the dialogue ending, the story ends with an important conversation or quote. By ending with a quote, the writer captivates the audience by making the characters more realistic and revealing their personalities. So these are all different ways that you could choose to end your piece. Okay, I mentioned that I like circular endings, so I'm going to share with you a blog post I just wrote yesterday where I used a circular ending. So it was on KidBlog. It's called Joy Where You Find It. So my first line and my last line are going to be the same. And that's what makes this a circular ending. We go back to where we start, like a big circle. Okay, and when you start with the same line and end with the same line, you bring your idea back from where you begin. Okay, joy is where we find it. This is a very hard time. I'm worried about my family, friends, students, and community. I'm sad for all the people who are sick. I am sad for the people who lost their jobs or had to cancel their wedding or postpone a special trip. It's like the world has changed and stopped. Almost everything that was has changed. I'm trying to look for joy in each day, happy moments that fill me with good feelings. I am very lucky right now and that I am healthy and my family is too. I know it would be much harder to find joy if I was sick or someone I loved was sick too. Today was sunny and warm, which felt joyful. All the flowers and trees blooming in pretty pastel colors contrasted with the bright blue sky. Joyful. My son made a birthday banner for a friend who was turning 9. We drove by his house and honked our horn and waved wildly while the little boy stood on his lawn, grinning and waving back. A moment of joy. My daughter's training wheels came off today. She was nervous at first, but with a little push, she really could ride by herself. It's taking practice, but to see her smile when she started pedaling all alone, a moment of joy. Reading all of your blog posts makes me happy. I wrote my own slice of life post on my personal blog today. I share it with other educators who also participate in Slice of Life. I'm wearing my shirt today to celebrate all the stories we are telling and the writing we are doing. We are able to learn more about each other and connect during this time we are apart. That feels pretty joyful to me. There's a line in a song that goes, "Beauty's where you find it," from Vogue by Madonna and Oldie. And lately, I've been thinking about that idea, that beauty is where you find it and joy is where you find it too. Joy can be found in a perfect spring day. Joy can be found in a birthday banner for a friend, drawn so he knows you care. Joy can be found in learning a new skill, like riding a bike without training wheels. Joy can be found in stories shared by friends. Joy is where we find it. So my first line and my last line are the same, and that is a circular ending because I end back where I begin, and I really try to emphasize the idea that the first line stated, joy is where we find it. And all my details in that post were about finding joy, and I close with the very same line. Okay, and I do that to have an effect on my reader, to make it almost seem kind of poetic. When you end where you begin with a circular ending, it almost feels a little like poetry. So I think that works for more serious posts. I was thinking to myself, we would try to practice writing endings together, but it's kind of challenging to do that because you really have to think about what effect you want your post to have or your writing piece. If your piece is more funny, then some endings that could work would be question endings, image endings, funny endings, dialogue ending, surprise ending, a cliffhanger ending. If your piece was more serious, I think the circular ending works well, or a lesson or a moral ending, a warm, fuzzy ending, a dialogue ending, a question ending, or image ending. So you have to think to yourself, what do I want my reader to feel? Do I want them to feel like this was funny and it was, very lighthearted? Or is this a piece that's maybe a little more serious and might need a different type of ending? Okay, so that's really the first step when you're thinking about your ending is think about, how is my piece? Is it funny or is it serious? Okay, so here's another post that I wrote a few years ago, and my ending is a warm, fuzzy ending. It was called A Good Day in the Classroom. "Mrs. Sokolowski, I made book one in a series," one of my students told me today. Sure enough, she had created a book and declared it the first in the series. There was a blurb on the back, a dedication, a table of contents, and each chapter had a title. Her best friend had inspired her to write the book since she was also creating her own new series. By the end of the day, two more students announced they too were going to create a new series of books. It was so exciting and they were so happy. Students did an on-demand personal narrative today, and at a quick glance, I saw dialogue, sound effects, bold words. Today my heart is happy. Okay, so that is just a very simple ending. It's a one line, but it's going for a warm, fuzzy effect, right? This was about having a good day as a teacher, and so the last line is just very simple, but it's meant to have the reader have that warm, fuzzy feeling. Okay, so this was more of a funny piece that I wrote. It was called A Good Laugh, and I'm using a question ending at the end. "Boom. I think your spaghetti squash just exploded," my sister said before we both collapsed into fits of laughter. There it was, sadly sunken in, strings of yellow spaghetti squash, seeds and water dripping out of the microwave. My sister and nephew had stopped by to visit, and the kids were all playing. I was starting dinner, but asking advice all along the way because I'm a fairly terrible cook, and my sister is a very good one. She helped me properly brown my chicken and cook my peppers and onions far better than I ever did. While we were chatting and the food was cooking, my spaghetti squash was heating in the microwave. I poked lots of holes in it before I started cooking it, but clearly not enough. The noise sounded like a person hitting the wall with lots of force. I was relieved the kids were all fine. It was the spaghetti squash who was in distress. It still tasted good after all, and the laugh made it all worth it anyway. When is the last time you laughed so hard you cried? Okay. So when you are writing, you might want to ask your reader a question that relates to what you were writing. Okay, and here's another one that aimed to be funny, and my ending is a funny thought slash a little bit of a lesson learned. Nosing around. He looks at my face for a beat too long and then says, "Are you aware that there is something on your right nostril that—" "I'm aware," I say, cutting him off. He is my student, and we are walking back from PE to our classroom. And yes, I am more than aware of the giant cold sore cluster that has erupted on the side of my nose in a painful, oozy, red, hideous way. It's actually been like that since Wednesday, but I was at a conference day on Thursday, so perhaps he hasn't looked too closely at me or my nose until just that moment. Kids, eventually, notice everything. A blessing when we are being those amazing role models and being the example we want them to see. A curse when we have those off days, say something we shouldn't, or have an unsightly cold sore eruption. The upside of your nose looking like Rudolph's, but worse, is that it gives you a sense of appreciation for the nose that normally gets no notice, the part of your face smack in the center that doesn't receive much attention day after day. Like the song goes, don't it always seem to go that you don't know what you got till it's gone? Cold soreless nose, I will appreciate you more. So thanking my nose for being a good nose when I don't have cold sores on it. That was kind of tried to be a funny thought or a little bit of a lesson learned. So today we talked about how writers can help their reader leave the piece of writing with a strong feeling. Today and every day, you can think about the feeling you want your reader to have and choose an ending that will evoke that feeling. This week, be extra mindful of the way you're ending your writing. Try a new way to end your piece. Write 2 different endings and decide which one you like best. You can come back to this video and look at the chart, and if you've never tried a dialogue ending, try that. If you don't usually ask your reader a question, maybe give that a try this time. Okay, and think about if your piece is funny or serious, and that will help you choose the ending that will be most effective. We cannot wait to read your writing.